Hello and welcome to my blog. Today we are going to talk about the spirit realm deliberately sends us trials so we may grow. We see nothing good in many adverse situations of our life, but it is actually a force pulling us off our easy path and onto a rougher, more edifying road. Where we see a life cut down prematurely is actually but a course correction at the proper time, all planned out in advance to make ready the soul for their next earthly episode. Zabdiel introduces this concept of how we are moved off the easy path and onto a path of learning. Zabdiel, a spirit leader of a group of spirits sent to communicate with the Reverend G. Val Owen, talked about how complex objects and processes are derived from basic principles. Zabdiel first begins with how our solar system operates. Out of the simplest wisdom are made the greatest things, and out of the most elementary of geometrical figures arise the most wonderful combinations of perpetual movement. For it is only the purest and simplest things that are competent to be used most freely and without entanglement, and this state of affairs alone gives warrant of perpetuity, whether on earth or in the vast reaches of space, through which go these worlds and systems, eternally because perfectly ordered in their course. Now, it is not too much to say that the pointed paths of all these bodies of the heavenly systems are shaped of two principles, that of the right line and that of the curve. It is even more true and exact to say that their orbits may be said to be shaped out of one form only, and that the right line itself. All go onward impelled in a right and straight course, and yet not one that is known to us, but travels in a curve. Astronomers will explain why this is, but I will note one instance by way of example here. The earth, we will suppose, is set forth on its journey. It travels in a straight line from one point. That is its potential movement. But directly it leaves that point, it begins to fall towards the sun, and we find after a while that it is moving in an ellipse. There is no straight line here, but a series of curves worked together in one figure, which is the orbit of the earth. And yet the pole of the sun was not in the fashion of a curve, but in a right line direct. It was the combination of these two straight lines of energy, the impetus of the earth and the gravitation of the sun, which, being perpetually exerted, bent the orbit of the earth from a straight into an elliptical shape, and one in which many elements of curve entered to build it up complete. I leave out other influences which modify this one again, in order to concentrate your mind on this one great principle. I put it in formula thus: two straight lines of energy operating on one another produce a closed curve. Hence, the trajectory of an object is determined by the energy within it and the force influencing it. Without influencing force, the object would travel on a straight line forever. It takes a combination of energy to produce the orbit. Zabdiel explains the results. Yet, each modifying the other, and the greater dominating the lesser, without depriving it of its essential power and freedom of movement, these, by their joint action, exerted and directed apparently in opposition, produce a figure of greater beauty than the two straight lines, which are as the parents to the child. From this, Zabdiel is preparing us to think of our lives. We are an object that carries within itself its own force. We travel on a straight line until another force interrupts our course and causes us to be deflected. Think about what would happen to us if our life was frozen. No change in job, family, friends, and children stayed the same age forever. We would replay a similar day over and over again. No outside stimuli would alter our thinking or character. Imagine being in a heaven as described by many religions, where life is bliss, in Elysian fields, where there is no want of anything, no stress, and absolute zero conflict, nothing to ever bother you again. you would continue on a straight line forever in time, never altering course, never growing as a person. It would be eternal monotony. Instead of smooth seas, our life is buffeted by high winds and waves. Zabdiel tells us why. You see a like opposition of forces in human life, and you say his plan is here imperfect. You think he might have made a better way, and many doubt his wisdom and his love because, seeing but a minute section of the curve of the great orbit of existence, they cannot but conclude that all is falling to destruction, or at least that a straight and a right line would be the better course, and not these combinations which curve the impetus of human life from its direct onward way of evolution, without disaster and without pain. Hence, whereas we see nothing good in many adverse situations of our life, is actually a force pulling us off our easy path and onto a rougher but more edifying road. Where we see a life cut down prematurely is actually but a course correction at the proper time, all planned out in advance to make ready the soul for their next earthly episode. Over the long run of our multiple incarnations, which is in fact a small portion of our eternity, the arc of our lives serve a purpose. Each existence is one more mile marker, signaling a chance for us to grasp the opportunity to advance. Zabdiel informs us how the spirit world, from on high, sees the struggle. We here do see not all nor much of the road ahead, yet more than you we see, and so much as enables us to content ourselves and press onward, helping others on the road, content and trusting that all will be well ahead, however far we go. For now we do not seek with much labor to reckon on the course we are traveling, wrapped round with earth mist which hinders us to see, but we view the way from the clear sunlight atmosphere of these heavenly realms. And I will tell you, the orbit of human life, as it works out towards completion, is beautiful too, so beautiful and so lovely withal, that we are full often brought to a rest in wondering awe at his majesty of love and blended wisdom, to whom we bow in lowly adoration, not to be expressed in any words of mine, but only in the yearning of my heart. Each hurdle placed in front of us is there for a reason. It may not be apparent to us in the midst of our daily dramas, but suffice to say that it is one small force that diverts us from a straight path and onto the highway of learning and eventual perfection. If you are interested more in how the spirit world guides us, please read my book, How We Are Guided by Spirits, Book 3 of Spiritism. Book 3 illustrates the ground game of the spirit world via the messages of multiple spirits to the Reverend G. Val Owen. We are presented examples of how the spirit realm above us peers down upon their unruly students. The process of tracking and modifying behavior on an individual and a collective basis is revealed. Even the broader direction of human society in the future is posted for all to see. God bless.